All right, y'all, my BS meter is spiking tremendously. AI music detectors are complete bullcrap. Let me show you guys something. I just generated a song on Google's Gemini in the chat. Okay, so here's the song from Google Gemini. And this is using Lyria 3 Pro, by the way. I'll kind of skip ahead. So that's Google's new Lyria 3 Pro. Now I ran it through the top AI song checkers on the internet. The first one said, and I renamed the file. So just to give you guys context, here's the file. I just renamed it. Okay, so that the system wouldn't just think it was just some garbly name. Okay, and then it says human made, shows typical human creation patterns, but we might be wrong. That's how they kind of like, oh, we might be wrong, but they said it was human made on this site. I go to a different site with the same exact track. It says human made, 24% AI. The funny thing is the whole thing was made by AI. And then I went over to this different track, this different website, and I uploaded the wavy, let me find this track. All right, so this next track we did during a live stream, and I was doing a Max B and 50 Cent reference, and we sampled AI to make the beat. So here's the beat.
Tell me that you love me, call me the bigger bill, and when you gotta hit me, just hit me on the step. Cause when it come to money, baby, I swim with the whales. And yeah, I'm feeling myself, baby, if you can tell.
So I uploaded to the site the same exact track you guys saw, Max B 50 Cent, and it says 50%. Not sure if it's AI or human. Like, come on, y'all. This is complete BS. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this guy had the nerve to disrespect me on the internet. So this is Raz, at Viral Manager on Twitter, at Human Standard. Previously, computer science, I guess, psychology at UCLA, SWE, I don't know what this stands for, Jukebox Company, all these whatevers, right? Okay, then I posted this earlier to show you guys my new plugin and how it sounds on AI music. And I showed you guys how to do this on vocals and regular human music too. But he decided to attack this for what? Okay,
now combine this with the
basically it's a video about, it says Google's new Lyria 3 Pro is insane, which it does sound insane. If you listen to the sonics of it, it's the most clean sonics out of all the AI music, and it's based off of ethical stuff. So what's his problem necessarily? That the computer made it? Is his fight that it's ethical? Because doesn't he license ethical music to train his model for his company? It's the same thing. So then he says, of effing course, BusyWorks Beats jumps onto the AI shill train. Last time I checked, shill meant somebody paid or deceiving other people because they're paid by companies. I've never shilled, and I'm not paid by Google. I'm not paid by Suno to talk about AI. It's just the new thing in the market, and we train people on music production. So he jumped off a cliff. For what reason, I have no idea. Because like I said, he had a company that he was trying to promote on DJ Payne 1's podcast called Music Entrepreneur Club. Let me see if I can find that video. All right, so here's him doing an interview with Dame and DJ Payne 1 on DJ Payne 1's channel. It's called He's Exposing Producers for Using AI. And I think the full interview is on their Music Entrepreneurial Club. So they're interviewing Raz, and he's talking about how he created this system. His name is Rasha. How he created a system on how to detect AI music, right, the right way, and try not to detect it with human. Basically, his whole point, you guys can watch the video. The reason I'm not playing the video is because they like to play YouTube games, and I'm not here to be playing YouTube games about video content. Okay, so you guys can watch the whole video to listen to the entire thing. The main claim is that he's created some system that can detect AI music, and he said his number one goal is to make sure it doesn't flag human music as AI, which I just showed you guys. The top 3 websites can't even get this right. The one that had AI as the sample, it says, oh, I'm not sure, but then it had human vocals. Okay, the other websites completely got it wrong. So put it this way, if the sites can't even get the fully AI tracks right, then how are sites going to get music with little pieces of AI right? That doesn't even make sense. In other words, tracks that sound more like this,
Tell me that you love me, call me the
where you don't know if it's AI or if it's a sample, you have no idea.
Tell me that you love me, call me the bigger bill.
How are sites and AI platforms going to detect that that's AI made? There's no way. When you add vocals and you add other instruments and you add mixing, and you add sonics, there's no way to just look through all that stuff and say, okay, that thing back there is AI. Even if you do stem extraction and you get all the way to the instrument level, which I'll show you guys in Logic Pro real quick. So for example, in Logic Pro, they have a feature called stem extract. So we could just drag this in, for example, and let's create a stereo track. And then Logic Pro has the best stem splitter on the planet. Let's right click, and Bolo showed me this, by the way. Go to processing, stem splitter, and you can split like 7 layers of a song here. It's pretty crazy. So let's do this in real time. As that's doing its thing, So if you guys watch the full video, they talk about how they can basically Raz is saying how he has some magical system that can, compare human music with AI generated music and figure out the percentage of this that's AI and the percentage is not AI. Like I just showed you guys, the systems are just flawed fundamentally. When you get into music production, you give me AI, I will filter it. I will add harmonics. I will add instruments over top to where you can't even study the harmonics to know that it's AI anymore. So this whole thing is complete bullcrap in my opinion. So I want you guys to do your own research, but the fact that this guy just jumped out a window and just had the nerve, because boy, there's a video, and I want to thank Audio Mastering. There's a video called "Are Suno Users About to Get Exposed?" So I want you guys to go watch Audio Mastering's video because he talks about the core argument against AI music detectors. When you get into music production and sound design, it doesn't matter how technologically smart you are. When you get into actual sound design and how sound works, we're talking about, if I could turn a sine wave into a kick drum in an 808, you think the systems are going to be able to detect what exactly? Like, what is the thing to detect at that point? Let's go to Logic Pro. So here's all the stems. Now, I got to figure out why this sounds weird. So a lot of these AI music detector researchers claim that they could take music all the way down to the stem level and figure out if it's AI generated or not, because what it will do is look at the harmonic distribution of sound. I wish I had a graph in Logic Pro that would show me. What I might have to do is go inside of FL Studio to show you guys. So here we have this guitar, for example, and they're claiming they could just look at this stem extractor, which stem extractors by default add artifacts automatically. So just the stem extractor could be the flaw in this entire system. Who's to say that the stem extraction is perfect? When you sound design, you understand that you can have an 808, for example, and you could add a ton of distortion to it. But when you go to solo the bass, for example, let me see if I can find the bass layer in here. I don't think this has a bass. Let's just say this is the bass guitar. Well, it's missing a ton of high frequencies that are in the other track because the way the stem extractor is looking at stuff is by critical bands, okay? So what about the high frequencies and all the distortion I added to the 808? Now it's separated. So if they go to look at this with the AI music detector machine, this is not the entire picture of the 808. So it's flawed fundamentally at the fact that they claim that they could, companies like this claim that they could just extract stems and figure out when stuff's AI generated. Like, this is the BS that we have to deal with in this industry. Okay, so let me export these tracks and show you guys in FL Studio what I'm talking about. All right, guys, so here's some music loaded inside of RX by Isotope, and here's where we could look at the harmonic distribution of sound. So basically, when you blend AI and human music, you get a blended harmonic distribution. There's no real way to know what's AI and what's not AI. So here's the full track.
Yeah, I'm feeling myself, baby, if you can tell. Tell me that you love me, call me the bigger veil. And when you gotta hit me, just hit me on the set.
Now the main tell that it's human, we've done this during a live stream before, but look at the density of the lower frequencies. It just has a more dense curvature and movement in the lower harmonics. That's usually where the human voice sits, around 100, sometimes down to 60 hertz, like my voice, but let's say 100 to about 400 is where the human fundamental frequency sits, and that's where you're gonna have that dense identity of the human voice, mostly speaking. So if we go to the stem extraction, which was the guitar track, and you zoom in, it looks very different. Okay, the harmonic distribution. So what I assume these systems try to do is they'll run a bunch of music, which costs a lot of compute. Okay, they'll get like 10,000 songs. You need thousands of songs to train AI models, by the way. So where are they getting these songs from? That's the first question. Okay, so let's say they're getting it from a bunch of humans. Well, who's to say the humans didn't use some weird filtering? And we can go all the way down to the source, but my issue here is you run those 10,000 songs through a stem extractor. Okay, who's to say the stem extractor is even that great? Because, for example, it could leave out a lot of information. As you guys see, this one's cutting all the frequency information above 5K. Well, this is a bass guitar or a guitar that I'm sure had a ton of harmonics in the upper register, but they're not being accounted for in the harmonics. So this could be falsely flagged as AI just because it has this artificial cutoff area above a certain point because of how stem extraction tries to filter different critical bands and look for different envelopes and things. Okay, so fundamentally, how do you even check for AI music? Look at this here. This is the AI song, by the way. So now you guys can see the AI song looks very blocky. and very scattered. It's very obvious that this is not a natural harmonic distribution. It looks very like when you run your like picture through a scanner. Okay, that's what it looks like here. It doesn't look very fluid and very dense. Whereas you go back to the human-made music, it looks very full and very lively. Now, not every song is going to be very full and very lively. The point is, if we're only looking at harmonic content, what happens if we blend the AI content with the human content, and now you can't tell which harmonic content is? Then you're going to say, okay, well, when we extracted the stems and ran the stems to our AI music detection, software, it said that it's AI. Well, the way stems extraction works is you're leaving out a ton of information to begin with. So who's to say that DSP is even proper? So like ultimately, how do you guys not just say the AI music detection is bullcrap? And let's say a company like Sony, for example, runs their AI music detection. They partner up with a big company like Spotify. Let's just say they run their AI detection music and they say, your human-made music is AI detected. You are now not entitled to royalties. Those royalties will go to the black box, and that black box will be paid to our top 3 companies, Sony, Universal, and Warner. How does that work out for the creative? It doesn't. It's only negative from that point. So as you guys can see, this is visually very obvious that this is AI. This is not how natural harmonics work. They don't just hit and just perfectly fade, very linear with no movement at all. Here we see a little harmonic movement. We see some pitch modulation here. So as we can see in this AI music right here, you can see a little pitch modulation, but the harmonics just look very faded because they use different envelopes to clean up the audio when they're using stems from other music. That's how they're training off of stems to understand what is a vocal. They're training off of stems to say what are drums. They're training off of stems to say what are guitars. So when you combine all this stuff, you get this very dimly lit harmonic structure. You don't get a real harmonic structure because the nature of the stem extraction used to even train the models is not giving you the entire picture. So when you create an AI music detection process, if your whole approach is through stem extraction pairing to try to match the harmonic structure, of course it's going to be wrong because the stem extractor removes a lot of information by default. So even when the AI music has a pitch bend and all this type of stuff, visually, audibly it sounds right, but when you look at the actual harmonic distribution, it just looks fake. Because these harmonics are just dense and then they just stop. There's all these little gaps in the harmonics. When you look at a real song, it's very fluid. There's a lot more curvature to it. There's not this flat line experience the entire way through. So if this song had AI and human music in it, the only thing it could truly see that's AI is the very top here at 15K to about 20K. There's a little obvious area where the AI, you can see where that potential sample is. Like for example, on this track, if you look from 15 to 20K and just kind of zoom in on just this area, you see how it's like very dark and very gappy. Well, if you look at this other sample and look from 15 to 20K, you see the same exact thing at the very top. So that's the only tell, technically, harmonically speaking, in this Max B 50 Cent song. And that's why the AI detector was like, could be human, could be AI, we don't know. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm saying here is that when you combine the human stuff with the AI stuff, it's nearly impossible to tell outside of that small, tiny range, which could be anything. It could be reverb transients up there for all we know. So if the core fundamental way that AI music detectors are working is by using stem extraction on a data set that they got from real humans to do ethical training, but in order to train the stuff, you have to create stems so that the system knows what's a vocal from what's a drum, what's a bass from what's a guitar. So if you have to create stems from human ethically trained music, and the stem extractor sucks because it's leaving out so much information, and then it's creating all these false flags on human stuff because it's saying, okay, because this doesn't have this much harmonic, it must be AI. But we just saw here, okay, the AI visually, when you look at it visually, it's very obvious what's AI versus what is human. You could just visually look at the harmonic curvature and tell. So the question is how, and this is one of the points the person brought up on YouTube. He's like, they never explain how they do it. It's like they're trying to be mysterious about this thing and their mysterious partner on how they have this music detector and all this type of stuff. But how did they do it? They don't explain it. Now here is another AI track you guys can see where if I zoom in, it just looks very like everything looks calculatedly linear. You could look right here at 15K, same deal. 15 to 20Ks, it's like linear thing going on. It's very linear. Even the Gaussian noise in between doesn't give you all that curvature that the human song gave me with the vocals, for example. You can see there's a texture to human stuff, harmonically speaking, and that texture is not found in the AI music. It's very smooth looking. Okay, now who's to say I can't take AI music and give it a texture to where it can't even be detected anymore? Let me see if I can pull this up. So let's run this song. If I could even find this track, let's see if I could run this and add some of my BusyWorks Beats AI mastering to it to see if it has the same harmonic distribution. All right, so here we have the same exact track. We're going to put it on channel 1. We're going to use the new BusyWorks Beats AI mastering 2, and we're going to give it an analog vibe and see how it changes the harmonic content. It may change it a lot, it may not. I'm going to purposely drive it a little bit more aggressively than I normally would because I want to create harmonic content to see if the texture adds in. So let's.
Lovers like to groove.
So it's very AI, like you can obviously hear it's AI.
Lovers like to groove.
All right, now let's add some.
Just what we do.
Let's turn the cleaning up, which gets rid of the AI-ness of it.
Heaven in the sky.
Let's turn up our bass.
Heaven next to you.
Let's add our loudness elements.
All we
There's some things we can't get rid of, like the sound source, like the bass. We can't undo the actual sound itself.
lovers like to groove.
But let's add the analog vibe to it.
That's just what we do. Heaven in the sky. Heaven next to you.
So I'm purposely distorting it to see if we're going to get more harmonic richness because I'm distorting it.
Lovers like to groove. That's just what we do.
And let's even mess with the stereo with
Lovers like to groove.
the crosstalk.
That's just what we do.
So here's before.
Heaven in the sky. Heaven next to you. All we know is party.
So what we're doing is we're taking out that linear feel of suno, for example, and we're adding in the human dynamics that make it human, the harmonics that make it rich and full sounding.
Lovers like to groove. That's just what we do.
Let's add in some parallel compression here.
Heaven next to you. All we know is party.
Now the upward compression is going to make it fill out more.
Lovers like to groove.
My bad,
That's
y'all.
just what we do.
My bad, y'all got like 18 apps going, so that's why it's all glitchy. Let me up the buffer length. All right, that was my fault. And I clicked the wrong button. Let's mix it again, just to show you guys how quick this is. Here's before.
Lovers like to groove.
Let's up the clean button.
That's just what we do.
This will clean up the AI-ness of it.
Heaven in the sky.
We can even add the AI EQ,
Lovers like
which
to
will
groove.
correct the EQ curve of the original song.
That's just what we do.
Make it a little bit smoother for us. Let's up the bass.
Heaven in the sky.
Add our loudness back in.
Heaven next to you.
Let's add our fullness in.
All we know is party.
Let's manipulate the stereo field.
Sipping on the wine.
We can even get an old school tape feel.
Party, party. Party all the time.
So here's before.
Lovers like to groove.
Very linear, very noisy sounding.
That's just what we do.
Here's after, and I forgot to turn the analog on.
Heaven in the sky.
You see when that analog comes on, it jumps out the speaker.
Heaven next to you. All we know is party.
Let's add the compression in.
Sipping on the wine. Party, party, party. Party all the time.
So here's before.
Lovers like to groove.
After.
That's just what we do.
Let's add our smart clip in here.
Heaven in the sky.
Make it a little bit brighter.
Heaven next to you. All we know is party. Sipping on the wine.
So here's before.
Party, party, party.
All right, so we're gonna render this as a track and then see if it changes the harmonic distribution out. All right, guys, so we got some interesting results. Here's the before. Now it still feels very flat and linear, very Gaussian and noisy and just very evenly distributed because, again, of how these things are trained. They're trained off of stem splitters. Most of the time, they're trained off of stems because they have to know what vocals are versus bass versus drums. Because if you request to an AI music generator, I just want the vocals. Well, it has to know what vocals are. Well, to learn what vocals are, you have to extract the vocals from a song. And when you extract the vocals from a song, who's to say that DSP is not terrible or leaving out a ton of harmonic content to begin with? So that's why Google's is so accurate, is because it's getting that process down to a T. Now, long story short, here's the before and here's the after. Now, the main difference I can see is, one, it does look more lively. It does still have a Gaussian element to it, okay? But it looks more lively because of the harmonic richness and the intensity. So for example, right here, the intensity of the harmonics looks very even, looks very flat. Everything looks the same color. On the second half, the yellow part is the yellow part. It stands out. It's very full and very dense. It has contrast and dynamic. This is what creates most of human music. If you go back to the human song that we did, you see this yellow is very intense, and you can see these harmonic textures over top. Now that's because I did my own vocal. Now imagine if I did my own vocal on this AI track and added my own trap drums. How would it even remotely know what is human versus AI? So I'm visually showing you guys this because I want you guys to understand it comes down to these fundamental sciences. And that's why I am deeming AI music detectors complete bullcrap, because of the way they even have to remotely detect AI music. Personally, I think these companies are going to try to persuade all these Universals and Spotify's and whoever's to put this AI detection thing into their software. And then basically all I see that doing is just rendering the creatives more useless, because they're going to say, oh, we detected some AI in your software. It could have no AI in there because you just compressed everything and everything looks the same. Man, you got AI in your music and we can't pay out this month for your song because it has AI in it. Guess it's going to the black box royalties that are going to get paid to the top 3 companies. Like, is this another excuse to not pay artists, in my opinion? Why would you go out of your way to pay so much money to detect AI? Why wouldn't you embed it in the upload process and have a human verification process that says, I prove and I swear that none of this is AI? Why wouldn't you do that? Like, just like YouTube has, for example, you have to mark it clearly as AI, and they have AI detectors on the upload, okay? Not after the fact when you already put it on the platform. So long story short, what do you guys think in the comments below? Do you guys think these things are complete bullcrap? I want you guys to look at this video by Audio Mastering. He made very good claims, and I want to you guys to go to the original. This is just a clip from the original. Okay, so this video is called He's Exposing Producers for Using AI. The full episode is on Music Entrepreneur Club. So I'll link all these things below, and I want you guys to go use your own brain. All right. As we saw, it can't even figure out what's AI and what's not AI. And these are the top 3 websites. Okay, y'all? Because fundamentally, the issue is in the stem extraction and how these things are trained to begin with. But that's all I have to say for you guys. Subscribe if you're new. It's Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. Peace out, guys.